why most piano practice doesn't work and what to do instead. Have you ever finished a piano practice session and you've put in a lot of effort and a lot of time, but you maybe don't feel you've made the progress you wish? Perhaps you're finding you're constantly stuck on the same difficult sections in a piece and just not really able to solve them. In my experience as a piano teacher and an examiner, usually the problem is not motivation. I find pupils often are trying very hard. The problem is often the method that they're using to try to solve these problems, and that's what I want to help with a little bit in this YouTube video. So often a typical practice session might involve a pupil sitting down like this and playing a section of a piece. And it goes wrong. So I'm just going to have another go. I'm sure I'll get it right this time. It went right yesterday. It's not working. I'll try it again. Why is this not working today? Yesterday it was absolutely fine. I know I can do this. I will try it a bit slower. If I do some slow practice, I'm sure that will help. It's not working. It's just not working. I'll leave it and I'll come to it tomorrow. I'm sure that it will be better then. Now, perhaps that seems familiar. I know I've certainly practiced that way in the past. And there are several things going wrong there. First of all, we're just starting at the beginning of the piece, playing a section, and when there are problems, we're just going back and starting it again and again and again. And what you may have noticed is I'm actually just really practicing the mistake. So that's, if anything, negative practice rather than positive. When I said I was going to do slow practice, you may have noticed I started slowly, but in no time at all, I'd got back to tempo. And by the time I got to the difficult bit, I was already back to my original tempo. There is a problem with repetition in practice, which I hopefully demonstrated there. Repetition can be really useful, but what it does is reinforces what we're doing. So if we're repeating like I just did with a mistake, we are simply reinforcing that mistake. Repetition done in the right way, where we're playing it correctly, on the other hand, can be a really useful exercise. Most problems we have with our practicing, they're not to do with what our fingers are doing, it's not to do with the amount of time we're spending, as we've already said. It's a thinking problem. It's how we plan our practice, the goals we have. So the question is, how many times should I play this piece? That's not the question we should be asking. The question is, why isn't this working and what can I do to change that? For example, is it the wrong fingering? Is it a problem in the rhythm? Am I trying to practice too much of a section at once? Is the tempo too fast? Am I playing with tension in the shoulders or somewhere else? These things, addressing these things, will help us to make good progress. In my workshops, I talk about the 4 principles of effective practice. Number 1 is clarity, identifying the exact problem and having a clear goal on how to fix it. Number 2, small sections, and this is often smaller than people think. It's really reducing it to exactly where the problem is. Number 3, the 3rd principle of effective practice is slow practice. So working on getting it really accurate at a steady tempo, and that's often slower than we think it is. And number 4, feedback. Listen carefully, evaluate what you're doing. Every attempt, every repetition, you need to evaluate. If it's improved, excellent. If it hasn't, why not? What can you do differently? So let's go back to that Chopin Fantasia impromptu that I was working on. So instead of just simply repeating it, let's try to focus exactly where the problem was. And it was this bar in the right hand. So, just slowly. And I noticed where my thumb tucked under, it felt a little bit awkward. In fact, if I do more of a sideways movement rather than crossing the thumb, I think that feels more comfortable. I'm going to try that a few times. So notice I'm really isolating the problem, doing very slow practice and thinking very carefully about the movement of the hand. I'll now start to add a bit more gradually. All this is slow practice. Each repetition is reinforcing the correct thing. I'm evaluating after each repetition. I'm going to add the left hand in. I'm much happier with that. Now I'm going to start to put it in context of the bigger section. Notice, by the way, I wasn't using any pedal. Of course I would when performing that piece, but practicing without pedal really helps me to hear the clarity and exact details of what's going on. So that's a little demonstration of how we can practice hopefully really effectively and sort out problems. And I might then gradually start to increase the tempo, but of course if it started to go wrong or feel insecure in any way, I would slow it back down again. So common practice mistakes, as we've seen from my earlier demonstration: practicing too fast, always playing from the beginning. If you're simply playing from the beginning and going all the way through a piece, you're not actually practicing it, you're doing pretend performances, if you like. Another common practice mistake is practicing mistakes. Repeating something incorrectly, and we always need to say what's gone wrong, how are we going to correct it, rather than just simply repeating the mistake. Another common practice mistake is to mistake the time spent at the piano as being the quality of the practice, whereas actually it's the effect of the practice. So, you can sit down and spend an hour at the practice, put a lot of effort in and make little progress. On the other hand, you could do 10 minutes of really focused practice, just like I was doing on that Chopin Fantasia impromptu, and you can gain a lot from that. So you don't necessarily need to spend huge amounts of time at the piano, but it's how you practice. And another common practice mistake is to never evaluate the results. We need to take time in our practice to think and ask ourselves, am I improving? What has improved today? And we should be able to answer that. And if we can't think what's improved, then we need to rethink the practice techniques we're using. So better practice is much better than more practice. Better practice beats more practice. Progress comes from solving the problems, and effective musicians are not necessarily practicing for more time, but they are practicing much more intelligently. Now, if you'd like a practical framework for applying these ideas, towards the end of this week, I will be launching my efficient or effective piano practice course. I'll put details of that through my practice letter mailing list. So you can sign up to my practice letter mailing list, and there's a link in the description of this video. You will get for free every week a piano practice tip. You will also get my free piano practice checklist, which is a really useful tool to help you in your practicing. And through the piano practice letter, and of course through all my social media platforms, I will let you know towards the end of the week when the effective piano practice course is available, and I'm sure you'll find that to be a really useful resource. Thank you so much for watching, and please do leave your comments and let me know what you found useful in this video and how you're applying it to your practice.